get his act together this morning. It's a little bit colder here in Iowa than it is in Florida, right?
Well, welcome. Welcome, Ankeny. Welcome back to Central Iowa. It's a pleasure to have everybody here. We have a great group of some moms and dads and school board members, some candidates too. I'm Representative Dan Gelbach. I represent Grimes and Urbandale over in Dallas County, and we're Representative Ruslo here in his district here in Ankeny. But we just really appreciate having you here this morning. Cool day. Welcome back to Iowa. I know this is not as nice as Florida, but we appreciate you being here. Obviously, you know that the DeSantis have done a 99-county tour. They've been back in Central Iowa a lot, putting in the work to meet voters and answer your questions and to talk to parents. And we're just really blessed to have you here. We hope you had a great Christmas and a couple of days off with the kids. And it's good to have Mason here. Hope you had a good Christmas and Santa got everything you want for Christmas.
What was your favorite Christmas gift?
He just woke up from a nap, so
It's my pleasure.
Christmas hangover.
I'll give it over to you. First Lady Casey DeSantis. She's obviously a mom of 3 kids, but has a great history of really pushing for parents' rights and parent choice, and has done a lot of good things in Florida. And it's just my honor to introduce First Lady Casey DeSantis.
I'm honored to be here. The kids were very excited. The first time they ever got to see snow was in Iowa. We talked about that. They loved it. Of course, Dad and Mom were debating who was going to get up at 5:30 in the morning because they saw that outside of the hotel room who was going to go down and actually play in the snow because they wanted to do it. Well, today they were very excited because they saw ice. So this is like a whole new thing for them. So he had a great Christmas. The girls are here. Obviously, as parents of a 7, 5, and a 3-year-old, ensuring that we have parents' rights and we protect the innocence of our children is one of the top priorities. And I can say that there is no other candidate in this race other than Ron DeSantis who will stand up for parents and stand up for our children. And as parents, we want to make sure that we are providing to our kids an America better than the one that we inherited. We want to make sure that they're able to walk to school safely, that when they get to school they're not being indoctrinated, and we want to make sure that they can pursue the American dream. And this is the guy that will get the job done. He's done it in Florida. He's delivered on 100% of his promises, and I couldn't be more proud to travel the state of Iowa with moms and grandmoms to win the caucus. So we're honored to be here, and so is Mason.
Well, good morning. It's great to be back. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas. We were able to be in a little bit warmer weather, and Florida was pretty much short sleeves for us, even in northern Florida, for most of the time we were back. And, I think Santa did not do such a hot job wrapping the presents as I think about it. I mean, I don't know, what happened, but they opened them so quickly that it doesn't even really matter. So they had a good time, and we're glad to be back. These issues here with education, I don't think have ever been as significant as they are now in our country, and that's partially because the education system has lost its way, not just K through 12, but also higher education. And I can stand before you here as, yes, the father of first grader, kindergartner, and pre-K3, and say that this is something that's really personal and important to me and my wife, but also as a governor and then as a president, I understand how important it is to the future of this country that we get these issues right. And no one's been able to deal with this, I think, in a more far-reaching way than what we've been able to do in the state of Florida. Iowa's close. Some states not so good. Even Republican states have not really done very much. But we really believe in protecting the rights of parents to direct the education and upbringing of their kids. We enacted a Parents' Bill of Rights. I think we were the first or one of the first states to do that. Part of that is knowing what curriculum is being used in school, being able to make decisions. At the time we did this was during COVID, I used Parents' Bill of Rights to say that the school districts weren't allowed to force masks on the kids. We had litigation that went on. We eventually won that, but that was a tool that we used to do that. Part of being able to direct the education and upbringing is being able to choose a good school. So we have universal school choice in Florida, education savings accounts, and we have close to 300,000 kids in private scholarship now. We have 370,000 in charter schools, and then we have probably another 1 million or 800,000 to 1 million in choice programs within school districts. So what the education freedom and choice has done is it's actually improved all the different types of education, because the school districts compete for students, charter schools obviously compete for students, private schools compete for students, and this has been something that's been very, very good. We've done the going against the indoctrination in the schools has been important too. Now, we have limited, we don't really do anything with the private. I mean, our view is parents can make those decisions if they want to go, but on the public, we don't have things like critical race theory, and then we had the big fight to not have the gender ideology in the schools. It's wrong to teach a kindergartner that they can change genders. It's wrong to tell a second grader they were born in the wrong body. Those things just should not be done in schools. So we've drawn a very firm line there, and we even had to go against our most powerful company, Disney, to be able to get that done and protect the rights of parents, but we're happy to have done that. Another thing that we've done is empower teachers both in the classroom in terms of discipline. We did a teacher's bill of rights because disruptive students are a big problem, and a lot of times it's like you're the bad guy just by ensuring order, and so that people are not going to want to even go into the profession if they don't have order in the classroom. So we did that. I think that was very important. We also did no automatic deduction of teacher union dues. So because they would make them sign basically an authorization, a blanket authorization. There was a lot of pressure to do that. No automatic deduction. So if you want to join, you write the check and you hand it over. What that's done, the biggest teacher union in Florida, Miami-Dade, failed to get enough people, so they're facing decertification. And the thing about it is you give people that choice, a lot aren't going to choose to do it. We've been raising teacher pay in Florida every year I've been governor, but so much of this union has become very partisan to try to use the schools to impose a partisan agenda. That's wrong. And so we fought back against that, and I think we're the only ones. I mean, we beat the unions on having kids in school during COVID. We beat the unions on unmasking kids. We beat the unions on school choice. And now, with the paycheck protection, we've empowered rank and file teachers to say, it's not in their interest to want to join a very partisan organization. And that's in an area that had traditionally been more left-leaning. I wanted big in my election, but historically. So I think that's important. The final thing, just higher education. In Florida, our view is if we're funding these universities, it should be to pursue a mission that the people of our state want to see fulfilled. It's not to just be an indoctrination camp where they can do whatever they want. So we have reforms. All tenured professors must undergo review every 5 years and can be let go for poor performance. We have no DE&I now in our universities. We enacted that earlier this year, and that's really been, I think, a cancer in a lot of these universities, and it's really fueled some of the nasty anti-Semitism that you've seen in some of these college campuses throughout, particularly in the Northeast. It's been really, really bad, and a lot of students don't even feel safe going to these campuses now, and that's a really, really bad thing. And then just generally speaking, the mission of higher education is the pursuit of truth. The mission of higher education is academic integrity. Obviously, Harvard does not follow that with their president plagiarizing. And really, we're trying to prepare these students to be citizens of our republic. And that's the mission. And if it's not fulfilling the mission, we're going to go in a different direction. I think these universities have just gone way, way overboard on this. And we'll get criticized because some of these professors get filtered out with our tenure review thing. But I'm just thinking to myself, how is it bad for Florida if Marxist professors are leaving Florida? That's actually good for Florida. So we're happy to be able to do that. So all that stuff I think is important. And at the federal level, we need to do higher education. You have the tools with the accreditation approvals that the federal government does. We can change how money is being sent to universities. I don't want to fund universities that are hotbeds of this nonsense. I don't want to send loan money and then say the taxpayer should somehow have to bail out somebody's loan that they can't do. It's not the taxpayer's responsibility. The university should be responsible for backing the loan if they're taking all this money in. So there's a lot we're going to be able to do with the universities. Nobody has really ever done much to push this ball forward federally, and I'll be the first president to actually dig in on it. But we got to get it right, because if we don't, we're going to continue to see a lot of these problems facing the country.
Yeah, we're going to open it up for discussion. I'm going to start with the first question. You talked about it a little bit, and we have some current school board members. I'm a recovering school board member. But one thing, the reason I ran for the legislature in Iowa was to pass school choice. You touched on it already, and you did the same thing in Florida. That was one of the first bills I got voted on last year, was the school choice bill. Can you explain why that's important to you, what it was like getting that through in Florida, and how do you enact that on a national, federal level?
So we did the largest school choice expansion in American history since I've been governor. We had a corporate tax credit program that was capped at about $1 billion. I came in, we opened it up, so we went from 100,000 kids, now we're close to 300,000 kids on private scholarship. We also have programs designed for students with unique abilities, and so that's actually led to the growth of schools dedicated to people that have disabilities, and that's been really, really positive. So, and then we also have the charter schools, which are public schools, but are not controlled by the school district or run by or influenced by the teacher union. And those have been good too, because a charter school, they're entitled to no students. They got to convince a parent to send their kid to a charter school. So they've got to produce a product that parents like. So in fact, if you take our charter population, I think it's between 365 and 375. And that was a separate state. And the charter population in Florida is disproportionately low income, disproportionately racial and ethnic minority. If you took that out and it was its own state, it would rank in the top 5 for student performance. So, these are students from more low income, disadvantaged backgrounds, and people say, oh, maybe they can't. No, everyone can succeed. You just got to have the tools. So we've shown that there. And then also it's important, parents, learning math, learning to read and write, that's important, but parents also want to make sure if someone's going to be with their kids for 8 hours a day, kids are kind of like an open book, and who gets to write in that? It's like the parents get to write in the book, and then if you send someone to school, that's a big deal. They want to know that there's good values being taught to their kids. And so being able to go and get a religious education, and we have everything from traditional Christian schools, we have Jewish day schools, everything in between. That's important for a lot of parents, particularly a lot of low-income parents, because this is not something they could afford, most likely, but it's something that's meaningful to them. But what it's shown is Florida ranks now #1 in education by U.S. News and World Report. We were 3rd and 4th, respectively, in 4th grade reading, 4th grade math, in the most recent NAEP results. That was not true 20 years ago in Florida. And so it's shown our school districts are doing better, our students are doing better, and so the choice works. It's created a healthy competition for students. And I funded, and I don't think funding is like there's places that are funded 2 to 3 times what we are for pupil that do horrific results in this country. So the money is like, that only goes so far. But we fund our public school districts better than we ever have. We've done teacher pay increases for charter and public school teachers. So we've done a lot because we understand it's all important. But people would used to say if you have choice that somehow that's going to decimate that. Not true. Federally, I think what you can do, because you got to respect constitutional limits. I'm not a fan of the Federal Department of Education. So what we would do is we would do a corporate tax credit program like we had in Florida, which corporations can choose to write off a certain amount of their tax liability, divert it to, basically it's an organization. Ours is called Step Up for Students, which you could do any, and then they would basically grant scholarships based on the criteria. So we did 100,000 students for $1 billion a year, and that's administrative and the scholarship cost total. So if you did 25 billion, you would be able to service a lot of students. And in places like Chicago and these places, these kids are never going to have opportunities unless you do it. So I think you can do that. I think you can do it with 50 votes in the Senate. I think the question would be is kind of where's the income cutoff? I don't think you could just say anybody that wants it, because it would be there. So you have to figure out how you target it. But we are going to do something with that. And it'll be done through the Treasury Department, not the Department of Education. So it's purely a tax credit program. The money goes into the scholarship institution that does it, and then it's not even government money at that point. I mean, it's just based on the criteria, and it worked well in Florida. I think it could work well nationally.
So a follow-up on that, do you see that scholarship money being administered at the federal level, or do corporations get to decide which state it would go to?
No, I think it would be, I think it would probably be easier to just do it at the federal. I mean, not even, it's just, this, like, we have Step Up for Students, right? They do it. They make money off of it, but they administer it. And so I think you could just do that. And maybe you have multiple ones, but they would not be affiliated with a state or federal government per se. But I think you could have them that would do multiple states. I don't think that would be a problem.
Why do you think you're the strongest parental rights?
Well, I'm the only one that actually has a record of supporting parental rights. I would note every candidate running, when we had the stand up against Disney with respect to the transgenderism and the education, they all sided with Disney. Haley, Trump, some of the ones that have dropped out. So, I mean, if you're not willing to stand up in that situation, then you're probably not going to be somebody that's going to be counted on. And I just don't think they're motivated by these issues. I don't think that they see the idea that you would have things like transgenderism in second grade as being as big a problem as I think it is. And part of that is because I think I have young kids. But that's just not kind of where they've been on those issues. So I don't think it's even close. Accomplishments, far and away, I'm better. Trump could have done some stuff with school choice. He could have done some stuff with higher ed reform. He had the accreditation under his control, Federal Department of Education. He could have overhauled the accreditation system. He could have done things to change funding in terms of these. He didn't lay a glove of reform on any of the universities or higher ed. Nothing. It got worse every year he was there. He didn't do national school choice. We had a tax credit provision. He didn't do anything about that. So that was 4 years. He did nothing on it. It just wasn't something he was motivated to do. I don't think it's something that drives him. I think he's being driven by much other issues. And then Haley, she opposed school. She didn't do school choice. She was governor for 6 years. She didn't do anything on this. In fact, actually opposed school choice when South Carolina was considering it. And that's just and she left office. U.S. News, they rank Florida 1 in education now. When she left office, they ranked South Carolina 50th in education. So no achievements whatsoever in terms of choice, parents' rights, any of that. And then decided with Disney, and then even on the transgender surgeries, she said the law shouldn't get involved in that. I think she's now flip-flopped and said there should be a law, but she had said for a long time it shouldn't. Florida passed a law. I think, did you guys pass a law to stop that? Because 20 years from now, people are going to look back. They're going to be horrified that this was allowed to go on because it's just ridiculous. So they don't really have track records on this. I don't think they're motivated by these issues the way I've been. And you want a president that's going to be able to lead on these things and that's going to be able to deliver big results for the country and the American people. And that'll be me, both in terms of my aptitude on the issues, my interest in these issues, and then my ability to actually deliver results. I mean, what Republican has ever been in a position where you have the teachers union that have just been rendered powerless almost in Florida? I mean, like, they are at the lowest level of power that they've ever had. We've had Republicans complaining about teachers unions for decades now. And honestly, it's only gotten worse in terms of their behavior. COVID was a big unmasking how partisan they've become in the last however many years. And yet, how often does anybody do anything? I do something about it. I've done it. And so parents and students are better off in Florida as a result of what we've done.
So what at a federal level do you do for that strength of teachers union that varies state by state in terms of diminishing it like you did in Florida?
Well, I think if we do this tax credit scholarship program, that goes over the head of the unions, and it gives parents an ability to be liberated from that, which I think would be great. So that will reduce power just in and of itself. I'd have to look to see if there's a lot of federal money that goes down to K-12. What are the options to be able to use that in a way to leverage better outcomes? But there's no question. And I think the public agrees now with conservatives. They were fighting to lock kids out of school indefinitely during COVID. They are fighting to impose an agenda on our kids. That's just the reality. People see that now, and they don't want anything to do with that. So I do think we've got we've got the people on our side on this one because they've seen how the schools have been hijacked by effectively a partisan special interest group. You know, I debated the governor of California a couple weeks ago in here in Georgia, but they locked the kids out of school for a year and a half, and it was all because of the teacher union and the influence that they have over the politicians. So, you know, that's probably very few things have been done more damaging policy-wise in our country than those lengthy school closures. And so, you know, it's people see that, and that's not someone they want driving the train for education in this country.
So going back to the rights bill, 12, 18 months passed, what if anything would you do differently in the whole thing? Passing it, the whole publicity to shake everybody with Disney.
I mean, I think we did the right thing. So we did the bill. Obviously, a lot of people thought that we were going to have to stand down once Disney got involved. No, we barreled through. We did what was right. They've now, you know, in the legislature said, well, wait a minute. Why Disney's coming after parents' rights? Why are we allowing them to have? They had a very unique special arrangement in Florida, which was unfair to everybody else. So they rolled that back and said, no, you're going to live under the same laws as everybody. They've now got engaged in litigation, but I think that the remaining claim, I think, is going to get dismissed in federal court within the next few weeks, and that's it. So basically, we stood for parents, we stood for what was right, and we won the battle. And that's what you need. I mean, you need people that are going to be willing to fight for you, fight for the kids, but also win on the issues, and not just flail around. And so I think we've shown an ability to do that. And, you know, it's interesting because you've now seen other states follow Florida's lead on a lot of this stuff, both in terms of the education, but also in terms of the impact of woke corporations on our society. I mean, as Republicans, I think we used to think, you know, government is the problem. Reagan said that. If we can corral government, then everything's going to be fine. And that may have been true in the past, but what's happening is the left is hijacking other institutions in society to try to impose their agenda on the American people. So you have to say, okay, well, yes, if they're trying to do something like ESG through the legislature or through Congress, that's bad. You got to defeat it. But if they're trying to do it through corporate America and imposing that essentially without a vote or any representation, that's in some ways maybe even worse, because you can't vote these people out. So when you see these companies, and Disney's just one of them, so many others that are pursuing an agenda to try to change society and change policy under the guise of these different things, I think as a leader, that's something you've got to defend people against. I mean, just think about Iowa with the ESG and how that would relate to agriculture. I mean, they view agriculture as like a huge, huge problem. And they want to basically overhaul the normal practices that farmers employ that would basically bankrupt the industry, and it would create a food crisis. But this is ideology that they're trying to impose. You see it in other aspects of what they're trying to do with like a social credit system. That is something that China does. That is something that a lot of these people are into. These are elites. That's what they want to do. They want to exert more control. Things like a central bank digital currency. We banned that in Florida, but the Fed is moving ahead with that. That'll stop when I'm president. But they want to basically get rid of cash and cryptocurrency, have a central bank digital currency, and then they can monitor your transactions and they can curtail your transactions. I mean, when those truckers were protesting the vax in Canada, all of a sudden their bank accounts started to get hit by the government. Well, that's what would happen here. So there's a whole host of things, I think, that some of the big corporations are trying to do that are a big, big problem. And yeah, this was not anything that Donald Trump leaned in against or really did anything to stop when he was president. And Haley is really she's their engine to do this. I mean, she's meeting and getting support from BlackRock, a lot of these big Wall Street banks that are imposing this. These are liberal Democrats that are funding her and that are doing all this stuff. If we can't stop the whole ESG stuff, then we're going to lose on all these issues going forward if you believe in freedom. So I think I'm the only guy that cares about dealing with the issue, that has actually done something about it in Florida, and that has the aptitude to navigate this, because these guys are they're trying to gain more power for themselves. I mean, that's just the reality. And they've even said their goal is to change behavior and curtail what people can do as part of a free society. That's unacceptable, and we're not going to let that happen.
You've had many roles in your life, but how has being a father impacted you as a leader?
Well, it's probably a little less sleep than I used to get, but it's no. I think that when I see the education issues, we're living it. It's just something that matters more. I like to think I would have taken the same positions on some of these more recent things, and I think philosophically I was in that place anyways. But when you see, as a parent, can you even put a cartoon on without having somebody try to do an agenda? It's not something you want to see as a parent. And we're sensitive about, look, we're going to raise our kids. We want them to be in kind of a healthy, wholesome environment. We don't want an agenda shoved down their throat. I didn't have that when I was growing up. I just had normal school. And that's really what it needs to be. And so the idea that, and there was the thing I know when the First Lady launched the Mama stuff over the summer, she did a good video where there was the chant in one of these protests where they're saying, we're coming for your kids, we're coming for your kids. It's not what you want to see as a dad, as a parent, because it's like, what right do you have to be doing that? It's not right. And no one used to even think about doing that 10, 15 years ago. Even now, it's just something that's being very aggressive. So we've got to take a stand as parents, and I'm the guy to do it.
So talking about protecting our kids, Nikki Haley does not do a very good job at it. In South Carolina, she tried to go against the ban of having boys in the girls' locker room, and she is not a supporter of making sure that our children are regulated by doctors. Can you tell me, other than that, how are you different than Nikki Haley?
Well, I would say she did even more than just not support. She killed the bill to protect the girls in the bathrooms and locker rooms, and she bragged about it. I mean, she was on Fox News last year bragging about, when that came to South Carolina, I twisted arms and I killed it. And that's just the reality. So that's something that she's been very proud of. In Florida, we signed legislation protecting girls in those situations, and I think that's the right thing to do. So I think she will side with more the donor class on all these issues. Some of the stuff, these donors, when you're fighting against things like critical race theory, when you're fighting against things like against the gender ideology, that they don't like that, and they'll tell you not to do it because some of their friends may not liberal friends don't like to see Republican doing that stuff, and so that will impact her, I think, in a big way. I think she's really driven by donors, and you got to be willing to do what's right. I mean, you just can't have your policies circumscribed by that. So she has no record of really standing up for kids, being strong in education at all. Clearly, her tenure as governor produced no meaningful education reforms in any way, shape, or form. And where has she been on all these fights that we've been having? Was she out there supporting parents who were trying to unmask kids? No. Was she out there supporting parents who didn't want their kids to be forced to take a COVID jab? Nowhere to be found. Was she there speaking out against the curriculum that we were fighting against? No. Was she speaking out against the things that have been put in with the curriculum transparency that the parents have fought against? Where literally you start reading this book that's in a fourth grade library, and the school board will tell you you can't read it publicly because it's too graphic, and yet somehow it's okay for a fourth grader. Nowhere to be found on many of these issues. And so look, when you fight on these issues, you will get people to come after you. They'll demagogue you, but you got to be willing to just take a stand, and I've proven to do that time and time again.
Governor, your disdain of the Department of Ed noted with this question. The last 3 years, Congress has appropriated about $190 billion to COVID vehicles to help schools recover and prepare for the next pandemic. Much of that hasn't been appropriated yet, and theoretically wouldn't be until the DeSantis administration. What, if anything, would you do to impact where that money might go?
Well, I would stop
learning loss.
But I would stop all the COVID money. I mean, we spent too much on COVID. We bankrupted the country. Well, I haven't, but the Congress and both administrations, Trump and Biden, have bankrupted this country. We went from 26 trillion to now almost 34 trillion in debt. And what do we have to show for it? We have a lot of inflation that we've had to deal with now for a year and a half, high interest rates. But the reality is how they handled that. By giving money, they underwrote states to lock down longer. They underwrote schools to lock kids out. So it was terrible policy. So I don't think we need to be spending any more money on COVID. I would take all of that, clawed back, and reduce the deficit with it. That's just, we can't go. If we're spending $800-900 billion a year on interest on the debt, it's just not going to work for this country. So I think all of that was, they were throwing money at it, and now you have all these people bought all these masks and stuff, and what is anyone even doing with this stuff anymore? Like, a lot of it's expired. They're having to just throw it out in different parts of the country. So yeah, it was not a good deal. I would whatever has not been spent in COVID. I mean, I think we got to stop. And we got to put the budget back to what it looked like before COVID, because they jacked it up and they're keeping it at a higher level. And we just can't sustain that. And I don't think we would miss a beat on any of this stuff. I think it would be fine. In Florida, we've paid down 25% of our state's debt since I've been governor. So we have the lowest debt per capita in America. So every Floridian share of our state's debt is about $661 per Floridian. Your share of the federal debt is $100,000 per American for our federal debt. So that's a radical difference in how you handle fiscal policy, and I think we've done it better than anybody since I've been governor. And that was through COVID. I mean, we're paying down 25% of debt with COVID, with all these other things, with also having to do more with infrastructure, because I have an influx of people. So I have to accelerate projects. We actually do have to bond some stuff because, well, we're not, probably with the interest rates now, we're not doing as much. But 2 years ago, we were bonding some of these projects because it makes sense to do it. So, but even with all that, we're still where we are with that. So that's just the mindset I think you have to have to just spend on things. It's like, we're not in a situation as a country where we can just do that haphazardly. I mean, there's things we've got to do, defense, people need Social Security checks and so forth, but a lot of this stuff with COVID was mismanaged.
I'm going to ask a question about DEI. So you mentioned the college campus, how we have issues there. What about K-12? I mean, I speak with lots of parents at the local level, and we are just so frustrated with that being pushed.
We eliminated it in Florida. I think it's a big problem. It's divisive. It's discriminatory. It's just a different type of discrimination. They're saying that these groups are discriminated against, so the way to solve that is to discriminate against these groups, and that just does a dead end for this country. I think what you see on college campuses has been abhorrent with how they've targeted these Jewish students, and it's just that mindset of divvying people up into those types of categories. It doesn't work. So yeah, I think here's how on the accreditation, so you will control the accreditation as president. You could accredit accrediting bodies that will view DEI as something that they would not accredit you if you have that because of the discriminatory aspect. You also could look into civil rights cases against the application of DE&I. It really is discrimination, exclusion, and indoctrination. That's how it's being pushed. It's a whole ideological construct. And how did it really? It really started to happen with the BLM riots. When that was happening, that's when they started really pushing this in a really, really big way. So yeah, I think K-12 and higher ed, I think it's a problem.
We're small business owners, and we have kids growing up in the school system in Iowa. We have had several conversations between the two of us about not wanting our kids to go to college. And now, as young kids, trying to plant seeds that they don't have to go to college. There are other options. But being small business owners, we see that the options are less and less for those kids. What opportunities do you think will be available for kids graduating high school as far as trade school or possibly other college options coming forward?
Well, we've launched a big, ever since my first year as governor, we've said a degree from a 4-year brick and Ivy university is not the only way you can be successful, and it's not the best way for a lot of people. And yes, if you get an engineering degree from MIT, you're going to be okay, I'm sure. But you have a lot of students that have gone $100,000 in debt. They get a degree in something like zombie studies, and then what? They think the sea is going to part for them? It doesn't work that way. So we've doubled apprenticeships in Florida. We now have our students can graduate high school with a certification in things like HVAC, welding, aircraft mechanics, all these different things, and they're gainfully employed. So there's a demand for skilled workers, and you can make good money, you won't be in debt. And then what happens is some of these folks, they'll be working for 4 or 5 years, and then they can start their own company, because like Florida's growing, so we need more electric companies, we need more HVAC companies. So they have an opportunity to be entrepreneurs. So I think we should absolutely incentivize that. We should provide support for that. Certainly, but when you make the loans, the college is responsible for the loans, which I want to do, that will change how they approach this stuff. Because they're not just going to be able to go on an ideological joyride and just do these things that have no, because if they're graduating people that can't pay them back, they're going to be on the hook for them. So I do think you will see changes there, but then we have to say these other avenues are maybe better for a lot of people. So I think I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's smart for a lot of folks, not just in skilled trade, but heck, even in a lot of business stuff. I'm not sure you're getting something huge in college and this stuff, and some of it's just networking, which is kind of the reason to do it. But I think the message just has to be, you're not any worse if you didn't go to college. There's other ways where you can get yourself skills and do very, very well, and then let people make the decisions that they want to make. But we shouldn't be subsidizing failed higher education majors and programs that we know just aren't value added. I look at some of these. So we have a liberal arts college in Florida called New College in Sarasota. So this was almost like a Marxist commune, like left of the left. And some of the people in the legislature were thinking about eliminating it, and I'm like, that's fine, because it was not producing any real value for the state. It was supposed to be the state's top honors college. That was that's the statute in Florida that says that. So they didn't have enough votes to do that. So I was like, all right, well, let's reform it. So I appointed 7 conservatives to the board of trustees. They fired the president, hired a conservative president. They eliminated DEI and CRT, and then they abolished the gender studies department, because they're just like, look, this is not something that is going to be leading to great opportunities. So we're going to focus on classical liberal arts, and similar to like a Hillsdale College. And so now you have a flood of applicants coming in. I mean, people from all over the country are trying to send their kids there because they see the culture's changed, and it's actually more in line with what parents would be comfortable with. So hopefully you'd be able to look at a place like New College and feel comfortable if your kids wanted to go to college that it wouldn't undo all 18 years of the work that you put in. And I think that in Florida our out-of-state tuition is I think about $16,000 a year, so it's cheaper to go out-of-state into a Florida university than some places in-state tuition is. So we're proud of doing that. And we have not raised tuition since I've been governor.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up with a question, and it's probably for First Lady too. You go on the trail that you got out of DC as fast as you could when you were a congressman, that you slept on the floor in your office, and you got back to the great state of Florida. You live there now. It's a great state. Education's number one. You want to move to DC, to a White House there for 8 years, and raise kids in that environment. Can you explain how you envision that going to other swamp?
Oh man. Well, I know that the one thing that we will do is we will procure ourselves a doggy for the kids because they've been asking for one. So that would be probably the opportune time to be able to do it, and I think that would be a lot of fun for them. But yeah, I mean, look, they're governor compared to Congress when you're going back and forth. Governor, I'm in Florida, like we live together. I mean, I do a lot, but we're there. So it is more family friendly, and I kind of feel like the same thing. It's like your family would be in the White House, you'd be able to do all your stuff. Fortunately with a guy like me, like I'll be doing your business, and when I'm not doing that, I will just be home with the kids and doing my job as a dad. I'm totally content with doing that. So I think it'd be interesting for us to do.
Yeah, the only ding I would say with you is that when he was governor, or he still is governor, he would come home at the end of the day after traveling all over the state, and usually like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and he would bring some sort of sweet treat home. So like we're in the process of putting the kids down, right, and we're going through the books in the bath, in the bed, and then Dad comes in, and I used to criticize him. And now I find myself doing it. So what do? I go to Perkins and I get a pumpkin pie and I wind up giving it to Mason at 9 o'clock at night after I've been out campaigning. So I've been giving you a lot of grief for a lot of time, but it's fun. I think that the kids are.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming. We're asking for your support, asking for you to rustle up support leading into January 15th. We have a great opportunity to really launch out of Iowa. I mean, clearly, and we have a situation where I've never seen anything like where the media thinks they should just be able to pick without the voters even having a choice. And I think that there's a lot of Iowans that probably disagree with that. So what we've been able to do, I mean, we've built the best organization here. We've taken Iowa seriously. We've shown up. We've answered the questions. We're going to continue to obviously do that. But that's, I think, what you need to do to be able to win. And I think ultimately the voters, when they see the candidate that is, has the most upside, that's been working hard to earn their support, I think that's going to be the person that they're going to break for. So we're asking you to help reel in as many people as you can on caucus night, and I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to reverse the trajectory of this country and get us in a better place. All right. Thank you. Where am I going? And we're going to do that right here. Right here?